I discovered the adult industry.
Hmm.
And how that happened was while I was in Florida dancing and carrying on and doing, by the network of people that I met were fellow guy dancers and they had their girlfriend dancers and it was like a stripper type. We all would go to the beach and hang out and but drugs were a pretty common, denominator with all of us. And I guess call it a phase because luckily I managed to get through it. But at that moment, you know, it was it's on, it's party time, and it was just a cycle. And then while I was dancing, uh, I met a girl because we danced. We worked at a club on one side the guys danced for the girls, and on another side the girls danced for the guys. And so when we were done, we'd mosey over to the other side, and the girls were finishing up, and you'd fraternize with a couple of girls. Hey, hi, whatever. Next thing you know, you're hanging out with them, right? So I met one. I met a few, but this one particular, we would fool around, and as I tell the story, I uh, I used the example of her, after we had sex, smoking a cigarette. Wow, that was amazing. And I'm in bed like, well, I, thanks, I appreciate it. I'm thinking, what. And she says, you really, know what you're doing? I'm like, well, you know, I was winging it. So she would say, you should make movies. You ever considered making adult movies? I said, what? No, I've never crossed my mind. She says, well, I've actually made a few. And in fact, I've been going to Los Angeles every couple months or weeks or whatnot. And I go out there and film and then I come back and work. I said, wow, really? She says, yeah. She says, if you want, I leave next week and I go out to Los Angeles to film. And if you want to go just to see what it's like, you can go. I'll take you. In fact, I'll give you the money that you'll lose by stepping away from working and go with me. I said, okay, fair enough. So I went and ended up out here in Los Angeles for about a 10-day stretch. And she rented a car. And so I drove the car and, had her bags and, she had her little itinerary. She would go to this production company and this director and work at this location and work with this guy or. So I would take her and, help her get set up and she'd go into makeup and then I'd find some quiet part of the house and go hang out while, you know, the day progressed. And the next thing you know, I hear them. I'm like, oh, I guess they're working. And then after that we would, okay, it's time to go. And then, so in that 10-day stretch, like I said, I met a couple directors and producers, and she would go and have a meeting with them because she was new. So I guess she was kind of carving out to the producers and directors what she would do or not do.
Hmm.
Basically, that's I'll do this and I won't do that and I won't. But then I would be sitting off to the side, and then after they would have that conversation. The director, like yourself, would say, "Who's this guy?" And she would spout off, "That's Tommy Gunn, and he could fuck good, and he's this and that." And I said, "Hold on, I appreciate it, but I'm just kind of trying to see the lay of the land." He says, "Well, you got a good look, and this and that." So again, this as a story, I've told the story so many times. This kind of, that one of the days I met a gentleman, Brad Armstrong, from a company called Wicked Pictures, and I come to discover in our conversation, he took us to dinner, and at one point the young lady got up and excused herself and went to the restroom. So it was he and I left with each other, and I said, "Hey man, this she's all fired up. She wants me to do porn and shit." And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So what do you expect? What would a guy like me expect to get into business? He says, well, the best way to do it is you come in with a girl like her. And at one point or another, because new talent is exactly that. It's new, right? Who's the new hot star? So the director of this company or that company hears about them and wants to shoot them, right? So maybe they'll set up a scene. We want you to shoot a scene with us, and she'll say, "I'll shoot one, but with him." And as a guy, new guy who's never done anything, that's how you get your break. Now you get to stand at the plate with the bat, metaphorically, and hopefully hit the ball or not. but that's at least your chance. And what I discovered with him was he had a background of being a dancer too, so we kind of related. He danced up in Canada, so he says, "Well, you got a good look, and if you ever want to consider doing it, here's my card." So I said, "Okay, I'll keep this card, right?" So she comes back, and so eventually we end up going back to Florida, and she goes her way, I go mine, and I keep this business card. And I remembered what he said. He says, "Let me know if you ever, I'll see if I can help you out." So I go back to my world, and that's dancing and working on motorcycles. There, I did some, I have a background of motorcycle mechanics and stuff. So I was working in Florida, doing these things, and I got this opportunity if I can decide to do it. So there I was again, second moment, kind of like the dance moment, but now it's a new opportunity about potentially being an actor in adult entertainment, which I thought was what I had been doing anyway as a dancer, strip in, whatever. That's adult entertainment, right? It's just not, it's just one last garment of clothes that we didn't take off, or whatever. So in this case, I go back to Florida, I keep this guy's card, and in the back of my mind, I didn't jump at the opportunity because, again, there I was at this moment, a little intimidated, like, shit, I wonder if I could do that, It's a big difference. Having sex with a girl at your own leisure in your own bedroom with nobody peeking in or doing anything, but it's an entirely different ballgame when you're on set and the set was paid for, and then you got a particular wardrobe on, and you got a script, and you got lights, just like that's a lot of pressure. So it's a far different thing. A lot of guys think, "Oh yeah, I can do that," and then they get on set and miserably fail. So that was a bit of a daunting thought. I was like, "Oh, I wonder if I can even do that." So it took me 4 years of carrying this guy's business card around to basically decide to take the plunge or try to do it. So when I finally did, that's what I call, like I said, every couple months, I would show people like, "Dude, check this card out." They read it. "Oh, what the fuck is this?" What? Wicked. It's a porn. Yeah, it's a porn director guy I met. He gave me his card. He said if I ever want to do porn, I could do it. And my friends would be like, "No way, that's great." I'm like, "Give me that card back." You know what I mean? So that's kind of in my mind, and some of the things that I would show my friends and stuff. And I kind of had this. It's kind of like if I had met Steven Spielberg and he says,
Right.
"If you ever want to become an actor, let me know." "Oh, okay, fine." So I did. I kept this card, and every couple months I would call. Like I would be with a couple of friends. I'm gonna call. Hold on, watch. "Hey man, what's up?" "Oh, hey, it's Tommy Gunn." "Oh shit, what are you doing?" "I'm on set right now." "Oh, what are you doing?" He says, "Oh, we're making a movie. You want to say hi to like Jessica Drake or one of these stars, Stormy Daniels or at the time or whatever, whoever's Jenna Jameson, whatever." I was like, "No way." I said, "Nah." He says, "All right, let me go. Let me know let me know when you decide to do it." So I'd hang up and be like, "Shit." So 4 years of that, I eventually decided at 36 years old, I'm not getting any younger. I'm going to try it. And I called him up and I said, "Hey." He says, "Uh-oh, are we having another conversation of you being chicken?" I said, "No." I said, "I think I'm finally going to do it." He says, "Okay, you come to your senses." I said, "So what do I do next?" He says, "Well, there's an event in Las Vegas called the AVN. And AVN stands for Adult Video News. And it's a media outlet. It's a big company that would chronicle and they would review and critique some of the movies and different things. So they were big. They were big at the time, and they were kind of like the industry standard of media coverage and whatnot." He says, "There's an event there. If you want to go, I suggest you meet me there, and I'll introduce you to the entire industry." So that's what I did. I went out, told my boss at the time I was doing some mechanic work with this gentleman fixing motorcycles. And I said, "Hey, you remember that card I got with the porn thing?" He goes, "Yeah, I remember." I said, "I think I'm going to try it." He goes, "Come on." I said, "Yeah, I'm not getting any younger, He's like, "All right." I said, I need you to let me, next week, I'm going to go out to Vegas for a long weekend. He's like, yeah, go ahead. So I went out and I met Brad, and he introduced me to the whole, it took me physically around to every director and producer. And at this point, these were the booths of Vivid and Digital Playground and Adam and Eve and Hustler and, all these big companies. And back then in 2004 or 2003, the business was still booming. Mm-hmm. There was lines down the hall, hours just to meet the big stars of the women there. So he takes me around physically. All right, let's go. And he takes me around and brings me right up to the damn front of the line, introduces me to the company owner and producer and directors and this is the new guy, Tommy Gunn. I couldn't have had a better introduction. The only thing missing was I had never done anything of any sort. And he says, just tell him you've done some internet scenes. And I'm like, all right. But because the internet wasn't popular back then, you couldn't search anything. It was very minimal. So here I was, literally being taken around by Steven Spielberg, so to speak, being introduced kind of like at the Oscars. Oh, come on, we'll take you into, and I've never acted a day in my life yet. I mean, from a performance standpoint, I've never had sex on camera before, ever. So I don't even know if I could do it. So I get all these business cards and I go back to Florida and I tell my boss, hey man, I'm going to try this. And he goes, yeah. I said, yeah, I'm not getting any younger. He says, all right. I said, I'm selling everything I got, which wasn't much. An old beat up truck, and I had an old motorcycle and a trailer. And I said, I'm going to drive out in about 3 weeks to Las Vegas because I had an old girlfriend out there who has a couch I can sleep on. I mentioned, hey, I'm going to be trying to do this thing. She's like, really? I said, yeah. She's like, all right, come out and stay on the couch. So I packed my whole life up, which wasn't much. And I go out and it's funny. I actually brought my boss's nephew. He was a young kid in his 20s. I said, you want to take a ride to Vegas with me? I'll fly you home. You can come keep me company driving across country. He's like, yeah, sure. So we jump in the car and we drive out to Vegas. I tell my boss, hey man, I'll see you around. I'm going out to become a porn star, And again, I had never done anything. So I get out to Vegas. To Vegas and I end up flying his nephew back. And now I'm in Vegas and I'm talking to my old friend, a girlfriend of mine that I know. And she's like, you really going to do it? And I said, yeah, I'm going to try it. She's nervous. I said, of course. So Brad says, okay, I'm going to call you with a date and tell you what date I'm going to put you in a movie. We're going to give you a shot. I said, okay. He says, so he calls and says, okay, write this down. April 16th, these are the location. This is what you're doing. He says, I'm going to start you out with just a blowjob scene where you meet the girl and she does oral on you. I said, okay. He says, this way we can see, if you can at least pull that off versus a whole scene, a full boy girl scene. So he was smart in the capacity that he set me up to do the scene in this particular movie. It was called Fluff and Fold. And if you know anything about laundromats, it's a service that you pay. It's called the Fluff and Fold service, that you show up with your dirty laundry. They wash it and clean it and fluff it and fold it and then deliver it to you. You come pick it up. And so that was the nature of this movie. And basically, this movie revolved around a laundromat. So typically a movie has about 5 scenes in it. Boy, girl, girl, boy, girl, BJ scene, and something else. So you have a big variety. And that was kind of like the cookie cutter, so to speak, of these movies. That's how they did them. So they had contract stars in this camp of wicked pictures. So what they would do is each girl, maybe they got 4 or 5 contract girls, is each girl would do a scene and they would pair it up with a guy or do, in this particular movie. And again, under the premise of this laundromat. So you can imagine, the little you know uh, things that took place in this laundromat. Well, in my case, I was just a random guy coming into the laundromat to take a leak. So I come in, do 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 do, and I go, hey, can I use your restroom? And someone says, oh yeah, it's over there. And I go over there and I start to open the door, and then here comes Randy Spears. Randy Spears was a big star back then and still is, and has since retired from the business. But at the time, he was the guy I was acting opposite of. So picture being in your first movie in like in a mainstream sense, and I'm acting opposite of Al Pacino. First movie, that kind of thing. So I go to use the restroom, and he comes over, and he's got like a hairnet on, and he's playing like some foreigner because he has this accent. He goes, "Can't use the restroom," and I said, "Why? I just got to go." He goes, "Look at the sign," and the sign says, "Customers only." And I go, "Shit, okay." And I think, pop. I take the shirt off real quick and throw it in. Go over to it, open up a washer, and throw it in there. And I think, okay, now I'm a customer, right? So I go to use the restroom in the door, and he uh, he says, "Oh, look at the other sign. It says no shirt, no shoes, no service, right? No shoes, no shirt, no service." And I go, shit. All the while, there's a girl who's in her laundry basket taking her clothes out, and she's just kind of watching this unfold, this little moment of between he and I. So I see that sign, and it says you can't go in there without a shirt. So she takes a shirt, this little tiny tank top, woman's type that says "sexy bitch" on it, and throws it to me because now I'm shirtless. So I put it on. I go, oh, okay. I put it on. It's like very form fitting, tight, barely fits. And he gets in a huff, like, oh shit, now you got a shirt. So I went into the restroom, and then she's watching from a distance this whole thing unfold. So he disappears, and then so I go in the restroom, and then she decides I'm gonna go in there, and that's how the scene unfolds. She sneaks in, and then what takes place is just a BJ scene in there. So he was smart in the sense that he set it up in the bathroom so I didn't have anybody else around to lights or cameras or sound guys to intimidate me, right? I only had the camera guy. So it was me, the camera guy, and her. So that was my first scene. And it was, I was a little nervous and stuff, but I managed to pull it off and do it. So what happened was after that, he basically got on the phone with a bunch of his other friends and said, hey, I tested him out and he does well and he's good. So if you want to hire him, he's available. So then I met another gentleman that I had met who was from Philadelphia. He was out in Vegas when I went out there that first time to meet everybody. And he was a director for a company. And so he brought me on, and then one thing led to another. I did a boy girl scene with him, with a girl, and he directed it. And then another one, and I did that. I did well. And so through time, it just progressed. First month, I may have worked one day. Second month, two scenes. Third month, a few more. So I was blessed that I got a good reception and managed to figure out how everything kind of worked early on. And then truth be told, that's what saved me in a way to quit drugs and get on a path of a better path. I saw this business as a legitimate opportunity to do well at, and you can't do well as being an alcoholic or a drunk or a drug addict and doing that stuff. It's all physical. You got to treat yourself like an athlete, and that's basically what I did. I realized, okay, if I were to get good at this, I can't be doing those things. So I quit, and I quit. I won't say cold turkey, but I just never did it anymore. And then, I won this award. It was called the Best Male Newcomer. And then the next year we did a big movie, Pirates, for Digital Playground. They hired me to play the bad guy. That was a big deal. It was one of the bigger productions in the history of adult. And then I won an award for that. And by the third year, I won Male Performer of the Year and all these other things. And everything was just, so it all happened so fast. I was blessed, and I contribute my success to kicking the habit and cleaning up myself, cleaning my act up. I was never an alcoholic per se. Alcohol wasn't my thing, cocaine and all these other things were. And I just realized porn in some capacity saved my life because it gave me something to work towards and to aspire to be better at versus, but with some people, they get into business and it's the opposite. They get in and they've never done anything, and while they're in the business, they got this rock and roll porn star lifestyle, and the next thing you know, they get all banged up drinking and alcohol and whatnot, and ODing in a ditch, and they're not as lucky. But for me, it was the opposite. So, in pretty much of a nutshell, that's how I got. That's how I was. I guess in one sense or another, one would say blessed that such an industry that people frown upon and look down their nose at. In this case, saved me because it gave me something to strive and do to be good at and to succeed at. And again, it's not everybody's society, you know right?
Yeah.
Society looks down its nose at it. It's got its place. Oh, it's not so this, that, and the other. But and but I managed to take something that was maybe not deemed as a some positive lifestyle or path or whatnot, and made it work for me and be successful. And now, this many years later, 20 years later, I won every award they got and been inducted in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame for XRCO. And again, some people might say, "Oh, yeah, well, you won awards in some industry that's terrible." And I'm like, well, whatever you want to say is whatever they want to. What can I say? What people say, right? How can I affect what people think of something? But there's nowhere I go that people don't say, "Dude, Tommy Gunn." I was just in New York and I couldn't go 10 feet without people going, "Dude, come here, fuck Tommy Gunn," and shit. So, I don't know. Call that what you want to call it. I've been to Italy and Prague and around the world different times and been recognized over here and there. And it's never been, "You're going to burn in hell." It's always been, "Dude, you're my biggest hero. I love what you do." And,